Okay, I had to make a clean version of that amended Constitution because people still they're not believing me, and I need to make a copy of it just so that I can show it to a couple of our elected officials and just to see if they can confirm or deny um, this document. But anyway, this I go on the White House .gov website. Some people told me don't believe nothing that's on here because a lot of times they make up phony stuff, but they are morally and legally obligated to tell the truth. So anything placed up on this page that is deceptive or incorrect, it's just no cause for. But anyway, when I come on this WhiteHouse.gov website, I normally I just go to the topics, and I normally go in the presidential actions, the legislation, the disclosures. I don't go into to read none of the issues, nor do I go into the administration. Yes, I do. When I go into the administration, oh, they what happened up under this special event, the 58th presidential inauguration. How did they get to the 58th already? But anyway, excuse me. I wonder why these are darkened. What happened? They closed off Share Your Thoughts. Our government. Let's see. Let's see what's up under the Constitution, because this is what I really wanted to come in here and get a picture of. Okay, now this is on the WhiteHouse.gov website. The Constitution, our government, the executive branch, legislative branch, judicial branch, the Constitution, federal agencies and commissions. I'm going to look under here. Elections and voting, and state and local government. Let's look up under this because I was so curious about this election and voting. Wow. Okay, so this is up under the WhiteHouse.gov website. And it says to learn more about the history of the right to vote in the United States. One of the most important rights of American citizens is the franchise, the right to vote. Originally, under the Constitution, only white male citizens over the age of 21 were eligible to vote. This shameful injustice has been corrected, and voting rights have been extended several times over the course of our history. Today, citizens over the age of 18 cannot be denied the right to vote, regardless of race, religion, sex, disability, or sexual orientation. However, in every state except North Dakota, citizens must register to vote, and laws regarding the registration process vary by state. The path to full voting rights for all American citizens was long and often challenging. The franchise was first extended to African Americans under the 14th and 15th Amendments to the Constitution, passed during the Reconstruction period after the Civil War. These guaranteed that all male citizens, regardless of their race, would receive equal treatment under the law and not be deprived of their right without due process. The 15th Amendment is specifically dedicated to protecting the rights of all citizens to vote, regardless of their race. For practical purposes, this was not the end of the voting rights struggle for African Americans because of widespread discrimination in some states, including the use of poll taxes, grandfather clauses, and literacy tests. African Americans were not assured full voting rights until President Lyndon Baines Johnson signed the Voting Rights Act in 1965. Women were denied the right to vote until 1920, when the 19th Amendment was passed. Prior to that, women had only been able to vote in select states. Federal elections occur every 2 years, on the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November. Every member of the House of Representatives and about 1/3 of the Senate is up for re-election in any given election year. A presidential election is held every 4th year. Federal elections are administered by state and local governments, although the specifics of how elections are conducted differ between the states. The Constitution and laws of the United States grant the states wide latitude in how they administer their elections. So this is just a basis on the laws that they're getting ready to take us into. So we're going to go back up in here. Let's see what they're saying about state and local governments, because what they're doing is, and I don't want this to sound like a conspiracy theory, but they're advocating the overthrow of our constitutional form of government. Structuring our governmental federal agencies. They're breaking them up. They've already disapproved every law, every rule that there was out there giving us protections, I guess, so that the dismantling of the government can be successful. But let's look in here in state and local government, see what's happening in here. Okay. Up under state and local government, let me get comfortable here. State and local government powers not granted to the federal government are reserved for states and the people, which are divided between state and local government. Most Americans have more daily contact with their state and local governments than with the federal government. Police departments, libraries, and schools, not to mention driver's license and parking tickets, usually fall under the oversight of state and local governments. Each state has its own written constitution, and these documents are often far elaborate than their federal counterpart. The Alabama Constitution, for example, contains 310,296 words, more than 40 times as many as the United States Constitution. State government, under the 10th Amendment to the United States Constitution, all powers not granted to the federal government are reserved for states and the people. All state governments are modeled after the federal government and consist of three branches: executive, legislative, and judicial. The United States Constitution mandates that all states uphold a republican form of government, although the three branches structure is not required. You see that? Okay, told y'all. The executive branch. In every state, the executive branch is headed by a governor who is directly elected by the people. In most states, the other leaders in the executive branch are also directly elected, including the lieutenant governor, the attorney general, the secretary of state, and auditors and commissioners. States reserve the right to organize in any way, so they often vary greatly with regard to executive structure. No two state executive organizations are identical. Legislative branch. All 50 states have legislatures made up of elected representatives who considers matters brought forth by the governor or introduced by its members to create legislation that becomes law. The legislature also approves a state budget and initiates tax legislation and articles of impeachment. The latter is part of a system of checks and balances among the three branches of government that mirrors the federal system and prevents any branch from abusing its powers. Except for one state, Nebraska. All states have a bicameral legislature made up of two chambers, a smaller upper house and a larger lower house. Together, the two chambers make state laws and fulfill other government responsibilities. Nebraska is the lone state that has just one chamber in its legislature. The smaller upper chamber is always called the Senate, and its members generally serve longer terms, usually 4 years. The larger lower chamber is most often called the House of Representatives, but most states call it the Assembly or the House of Delegates. Its members usually serve shorter terms, often 2 years. Judicial branch. State judicial branches are usually led by the state Supreme Court, which hears appeals from lower level state courts. Court structures and judicial appointments elections are determined either by legislation or the state constitution. The Supreme Court focuses on correcting errors made in lower courts and therefore holds no trials. Rulings made in state Supreme Court are normally binding. However, when questions are raised regarding consistency with the United States Constitution, matters may be appealed directly to the United States Supreme Court. Local government. Local government generally includes two tiers: counties, also known as boroughs in Alaska, and parishes in Louisiana, and municipalities or cities and towns. In some states, counties are divided into townships. Municipalities can be structured in many ways, as defined by the state constitutions, and are called variously townships, villages, boroughs, cities, or towns. Various kinds of districts also provide function in local government outside county or municipal boundaries, such as school districts or fire protection districts. Municipal government, those defined as cities, towns, boroughs, except in Alaska. Villages and townships are generally organized around a population center and in most cases correspond to the geographical designations used by the United States Census Bureau for reporting of housing and population statistics. Municipalities vary greatly in size, from the millions of residents of New York and Los Angeles to the 287 people who live in Jerkins, Minnesota. Municipalities generally take responsibility for parks and recreation services, police and fire departments, housing services, emergency medical services, municipal courts, transportation services, including public transportation and public works, streets, sewers, snow removal, signage, and so forth. Whereas the federal government and state governments share power in countless ways. A local government must be granted power by the state. In general, mayors, city councils, and other governing bodies are directly elected by the people. Okay. Okay, we're back up here. Let's go into federal agencies and commissions. Okay. Federal agencies and commissions. Learn more about the federal agencies and commissions in the United States federal government. There are hundreds of federal agencies and commissions charged with handling such responsibilities as managing America's space program, protecting its forests, and gathering intelligence. For a full listing of federal agencies, departments, and commissions, visit usa.gov. Okay, we'll do that in a minute. Going to the Constitution. This Constitution. Now it's in here. It's saying this: the Constitution is the supreme law of the land in the United States. Learn more about our founding document, and then they start off reading the preamble, and then they talks about the United States of America is the supreme law of the United States, empowered with sovereign authority of the people by the framers and the consent of the legislatures of the states. It is the source of all government powers and also provides important limitations on the government that protects the fundamental rights of the United States citizens. Seriously. They're talking about the kings. They went all the way back. And now they're talking about the ratification process. Because that's what they did. They went and they codified old bills, 60 to 90 years old, and created new laws and ratified them. Even with the Bill of Rights. And I guess I think this may be the original parts of the Constitution. But the first note, because the First Amendment, it says, provides that Congress make no laws respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting its free exercise. It protects freedom of speech, the press, assembly, and the rights to petition the government for redress of grievances. Yeah, so this might be the original. Yep, this is the original. So they amended this. The states at the Ninth Amendment states that the list of rights enumerated in the Constitution is not exhaustive and that the people retain all rights not enumerated. No. See, they amended the Sixth Amendment. No, they didn't. Assures the right to a speedy trial by a jury of one's peers, to be informed of the crimes with which they are charged and to confront the witnesses brought by the government. The amendment also provides the accused the right to compel testimony from witnesses and to legal representation. Now, the Fifth Amendment is saying, look at that. It says, the Fifth Amendment provides that citizens not be subject to criminal prosecution and punishment without due process. Citizens may not be tried on the same set of facts twice and are protected from self-incrimination, the right to remain silent. The amendment also establishes the power of eminent domain, ensuring that private property is not seized for public use without just compensation. Lord have mercy, Jesus. You see that? The Fourth Amendment protects citizens from unreasonable search and seizure. The government may not conduct any searches without a warrant, and such warrant may be issued by a judge and based on probable cause. Okay. The Third Amendment prohibits the government from quartering troops in private homes, a major grievance during the American Revolution. Okay, so we done read those. Let's go back up here and go to their version. Okay. They say, why Constitution? Let's go to the full text of the Constitution. And it took me to the United States Senate. I gotta pull it back some. And it's telling us about the ratification process and the annotated Constitution. Excuse me. And it's just letting us know that the italicized text indicates words and passages of the Constitution that were changed or affected by amendments. Okay.